know, we do have one of each race, which means the grand finals will not be a mirror matchup, so it feels good, man. We won't have to deal with a TvT, PvP, or a ZvZ, but yeah, still a little bit up in the air as to what we're going to be getting into as we are loading into our first game of our second semi-finals.
And we are, of course, going to be conducting it, or starting it off, on Cosmic Sapphire. We're in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, starting all the way in the bottom right-hand corner. We have a blue Terran player coming out from the land of Belarus. He is, of course, going to be representing Storm Gaming, pretty much a mainstay of the semifinals of this tournament for the past couple of weeks. He is Nicoract.
And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Cosmic Sapphire, we have the highest placing Oceanic / Southeast Asian player in Sparkling Tuna Cup number 24. Hailing from the land of India, representing Alpha X, it is Demi.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel like it's been a long time since we casted Demi in a CVT.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
I think we casted him versus Azure last week, but yeah, even then, it's a fairly short series, unfortunately.
It was pretty one-sided, I'll be honest. Like, Demi versus Azure wasn't as close as it once used to be, unfortunately. Demi's a much more active player nowadays. He's very in form. We were talking earlier about how he went to the ace match. He went to game 5 against Nightmare in the grand finals of Sparkling Tuna Cup like 2 months ago, which was crazy to see. So he has really been leveling up as a player, and it's been really impressive to see his growth. But that was in a ZVP. You know, what about against Terran? A matchup that has really changed quite a bit over the past couple of months.
Yeah, especially against a player who, well, maybe they've played against each other, but I do feel like Nicoract is different in the sense that he plays standard very, very well. He has some very, very crisp timings, no matter which matchup, and it's not really something that I don't really know where I'm going with this, but what I mean to say is, usually when we see TvZs nowadays, we expect Terran players to throw in a little bit of a curveball, right? At least once, because that's what you really have to do to get an advantage in TvZ. That's why we saw that BC build, for example, work so well against Eba. But I feel like Nicoract may be one of the few players who could just play straight up and have that, and play it well enough to be his strength.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about Nicoract is, I mean, you touched on it, but in his series against Eba that went all the way to the ace match, he went for a different opener every single game. In all 3 of those games, he went for something slightly different, and that's a little bit terrifying, right? He can be unpredictable, and he doesn't have to do anything crazy. He can still play standard and still find success, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. He is going for a 3rd CC before Starport, so a very, very standard opener, nothing crazy in game 1 here against Demi.
Yeah, I mean, from now on, every time I look at Nicoract and I see a tech lab and a starport being built at the same time, I have some suspicions, but I doubt we'll see a fusion core this time, right?
Yeah. It's all
it was a
good.
3cc before starport, so
It's all good. We are seeing that Banshee opener that we did see against Eba on Inside and Out, if I'm not mistaken. So Nicoract just kind of taking this in a much more macroeconomic approach. Meanwhile, Demi, likewise, he's just droning, he's just chilling, he's just saturating his 3 bases. He's slipping into the main with his Overlord to get a full scout off, and he will confirm not just the 1-1-1, but he'll also see the Tech Lab researching.
Yeah, he should have an inkling of what's coming his way. Spore crawlers are going to be thrown down any second now.
Exactly. Right now, he's just trying to keep up with the rotations of these Hellions and trying to dip in and out and get into one of these exposed mineral lines, but Demi is able to keep up, and soon we should be seeing those spores, as you were saying. The Banshee is moving out across the map, and Demi is, being a little bit greedy to lane.
Yeah. Getting a couple of them now, but we'll see how much damage this Banshee can get done before the spores finish up.
Yeah, we have one spore in the main, so Demi is gambling a little bit. He's hoping that the Banshee is going to go into the main base out of all of them, and he's gambling correctly.
There we go. Lair is also about halfway done, so pretty soon we can get a couple of overseers, or Demi can get a couple of overseers.
Yeah, exactly. Lair's about to finish up. The Banshee already taking quite a bit of hull damage. It looks like he will get 2 drones and a creep tumor in total. So not bad, but that Banshee has taken a lot of hits. So it's not going to be able to stick around for much longer.
Yeah, but at least it's alive. Still continue to lend its support as the game continues. If you'll remember, in that Inside and Out game, Nicoract only built a single Banshee, kept it alive throughout the entire game, and it actually did provide a little bit of target fire help against banelings towards the end of the game there.
Yeah, it played its part, you know. It was definitely a valuable unit in the army, so yeah, Nicoract can always make use of them later on. They're not as valuable as, say, Oracles, but, you know, they do their part nonetheless. As Nicoract is getting his third base up and running, we see a little bit of a Rax explosion here, you know, just getting the rest of his production up and running. Nothing too crazy, just bioplay. We're not transitioning into, like, mech or anything crazy like that either.
I like the Rax explosion. It's like, he's building 2 more Raxes!
It's crazy!
What a madman! But yeah, funnily enough, I mean, you know, you don't want to knock the effectiveness of 2 more barracks in TvZ, especially if you're going for reactor summon them, like what Nicoract is doing.
Yeah,
that's 4 more Marines being produced at a time.
Hey, look, I saw 4 Raxes in the production tab, okay? Like, that's the explosion in my eyes.
Look, it stacks up over time. Man with gun is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If you can produce 2 man with gun from 1 Rax, and you're getting 4 Rax, the math. You're getting 8 man with gun. No, 8. I don't know how the math works out. That was a kill on that hatchery, not a cancel, so very nice little bit of damage here. Demi, meanwhile, however, doing what we know Demi for. That is a sentence that doesn't make sense grammatically. Doing Demi things, and what we love about Demi, going for the Mutalisk.
Doing what Demi does best. We have the Spire on the way. Meanwhile, the Banshees are putting in a lot of work. We were talking about the Banshees earlier, and there was a kill, not a cancel, because of the added DPS of the Banshees alongside these Hellions. So Nicoract still applying a lot of this pressure. Once again, just like against Eva, he was moving out with 1 tank, but he thinks better of it, thankfully. And what's important is that Nicoract hasn't been able to get too much of a scat off. He hasn't gone into the natural. He doesn't know that Demi is going Ling Bane Muta. You can make some assumptions, but again, he's still in the dark, and because of that, he doesn't have any missile turrets.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about that. And yeah, these mineral lines are looking very exposed, but there's always a chance here for Nicoract. You know, maybe if he's aggressive enough, he forces Demi to use the Mutalisk defensively instead of as a harassment tool.
Yeah, that's kind of best case scenario here for Nicoract as he's pushing on out again. This time with 2 tanks going to be able to clear up a lot of creep. I don't think Demi needs the Mutas to help clean this up, so hopefully he doesn't show his hand as Mutas are popping out, and I'm not aware if Nicoract was able to barely spot them.
Well, he may not see them now.
Oh, yeah, the Mutas are going across the map. How many Mutas do we have in total? We have 17 Mutas moving out, and again, there's actually nothing here that shoots up. There are only Hellions and Banshees. Yeah,
despite the sensor towers, that's the wrong kind of tower, unfortunately, here for Nicoract. The entire mineral line in this third base is going down, and Demi wants way more where that came from.
Yeah, exactly. He gets 17 SCVs, almost gets some of those medevacs as well as they do come in towards that third base location. Instead, he goes and targets down the armory, which again is going to slow down any kind of more upgrades, is going to slow down 3-3, and loses only 1 Muta.
Very nice control here from Demi. And now Nicoract, his hand is kind of forced. He needs to deal some stabilizing damage, or at the very least, kill all of these Mutalisks before trying to macro out.
Yeah, and in the end, Nicoract, he turns around and he comes back home. That push across map wasn't able to do anything. He didn't even try to break the third base location. Instead, he rotated around. He was trying to circle and maybe cache those Mutas, but Demi, his control was just a little bit too good. And now Demi, he is looking perfect right now. Look at the drone count. Look at the supply.
Yeah, look at how he's maxed out at this point. He is missing a little bit of tech. I mean, he's only getting his 1-1 now, but he's safe to do so because of how well he's been able to keep Nicoract at bay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the opener for Nicoract didn't really do too much damage. I'm talking specifically about the Banshees and the Hellions. Meanwhile, the Mutas weren't like punished at all. They weren't even scouted, and another armory gets picked off.
Like, so this is really gonna delay the upgrades now.
Oh god, it really is. Demi working on 2-2 behind this. The Mutas are still just keeping Nicoract busy. I love the flanking Marines, but Demi, he's a little bit too wise to them, and he is able to avoid them.
Yeah, Demi, he is the Muta king of Southeast Asia. He is aware of basically any counter to Mutalists and has practiced very, very well against them. Another mineral line, or at least half of it, it's going to go down here.
Yeah, Demi did take one Thor shot to the face, so he has to be careful. He's being kind of boxed in here. More short Thor shots, and he is going to lose some of the Mutas in the process. Looking at the units lost tab, he has lost 8 Mutas in total, but again, well worth it. Look at that bank back at home. Demi is he's cruising, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. I will say though, Nicoract, I feel like he's teched up appropriately to deal with the army composition Demi has gone for. He's actually now maxed out, yeah, he's got the better upgrades at the moment. So there's definitely a big window of opportunity for him to be able to at least cripple or badly damage the economy of Demi.
Yeah, there's a nice timing here. Nicoract is pushing out across map. The Ling Bane of Demi is busy here towards the south, so Demi is going to have to give up a base.
Man, it's going to have to be this base. The freshest mining base that he has.
Yeah, exactly. Demi's trying to set himself up here for a bit of a surround. The Ling, the Bane, the Mutas are all here to defend. He's going to dive on in. He's going to draw away the Marines a little bit, try and force him out of position. Meanwhile, Demi did end up losing that hatchery.
Nice little victory here for Nicoract, and Nicoract has not lost much of his army either. Demi, he's trying to set up a surround. He's not really in the best position to do so. Most of Nicoract's army, his tanks specifically, are very far off creep.
Oh, exactly. There are also a couple of Widow Mines mixed in here as well. Widow Mines are going to go off, though, as in they're going to be taken down. Ooh, but they do go off on the Mutas.
Yeah, nice little, nice little pickup there for Demi. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, exactly. The Mutaflock is still as large as it can be. Meanwhile, he's actually going to be throwing away quite a bit of it, transitioning much more heavily into pure Ling Bane.
It's definitely an interesting choice here as Demi moves into Hive Tech. But I mean, technically it could be efficient.
Yeah, Demi's pulling the trigger. He's coming in with his Ling Bane. The Widowmine shots have not been good enough, and the Marines are falling left and right. A couple more shots are going off, but they're not the connections that Nicoract needed.
Pretty much an even trade, but look at the banks right now. Demi has thousands of minerals and a lot of gas still saved up. Nicoract struggling a little bit to mine. That, however, was not a very efficient trade for Demi.
Yeah. I was aware that Demi had more Ling Bane behind this for a second wave, but it was just Bane. There were no Lings there, so we just saw Banelings crash into tanks, Banelings crash into Thors. It wasn't an efficient trade, as you were saying, but maybe Demi could still afford it. I say maybe because Demi that was his gas bank.
He spent his bank, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of minerals right now, but minerals can't really produce anything other than Lings and drones. Nicoract, he has an inkling of how Demi has expanded, and he is going straight for that gold base.
Yeah, the gold is under threat. Demi's out of position. His Lings are going for a run by instead. That means the gold is going to go down. There's a little bit of Ling Bane here to defend. It looks like the drones will survive, but the hatchery will not.
And Demi's being very, very careful right now. He does not want to engage Nicoract's army unless he's certain he can trade efficiently. But I don't see a way for him to do so with what he's got.
Yeah, I mean, Demi is going to force Nicoract on 3-base economy right now, which isn't bad, but I don't know how well these things are really trading. He's trying to get into the natural base as well. Ooh, he's going to get some more SCVs here, though.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing for Demi right now is he can afford to lose Zerglings. It's these more gas-intensive units that he's being a bit more careful with.
Yeah, exactly. Or is he? Because, you know, he doesn't have that mineral bank anymore, but he has been able to remax. That's why he doesn't have that bank. The Mutas were able to survive. He got a kill, by the way, on that orbital, so Nicoract knocked down to only 3 bases.
A lot of Widow Mines are starting to borrow, though. I would not want to be in Demi's shoes right now, being forced to move into a location where just about everything hurts.
Yeah, exactly. There is a minefield here, and a couple of 9 shots are going to go off on those mutas. Not enough to really get any kills, but enough to soften them up. Another 1 shot almost goes off.
And then we can trigger them with a couple of Zerglings now, though. Mining is pretty much abysmal for both players at the moment. Demi, a lot of his mutas are clumped up. Those Thors are having an absolute field day, and I think Nicoract has just about been able to break through. I say that because I was looking at the supplies, but a lot of Nicoract supplies. Medevacts, this is a very back and forth game. I'm glad this is what we're starting the semifinals with.
Oh god, the defense is so close here. As you were saying, 3 Thor volleys was all it took to take down the Muta Cloud. Unfortunately, Demi was a little bit too banked up, too bunched up there, and it looks like that may just be it. The rally continues. The Widowmines are resetting. More shots are going to be going up, and Demi just doesn't have enough to defend against the tide of Terran.
It's really struggling to produce anything other than Zerglings, and even then, the Zerglings aren't the most effective unit against this composition. Very good juggling on the Thors here by Nicoract. GG. Nicoract takes game number 1 in very back and forth fashion.
GG. Demi basically forced an all-in, or he forced a major response there, getting a kill on that third base of Nicoract. And Nicoract, he was all or nothing there. And as we saw, unfortunately, Demi, he bunched up his mutas a little bit too much there. Like, those Thor shots were so painful to watch. It didn't take long at all for the Muta Cloud to just evaporate.
Yeah. Demi pretty much forced Nicoract into an all or nothing position, and unfortunately for Demi, it was all.
Yeah, it was not nothing, mate. GG, well played. Nicoract takes the first game, and now we're getting into game number 2. But I'm very glad, as you were kind of saying yourself, how close it is between these two players. We don't get to see Demi play against Europeans too often, just because their regions are on polar opposites of the world, and they avoid each other. They don't play in too many of the same tournaments. But that is the beauty of Sparkling Tuna Cup. We force them to play. And
whether they like it or not.
Whether they like it or not. And I'm impressed, you know. I'm sure a lot of people they're not too, like, especially a lot of Europeans watching aren't too familiar with Demi. But like it did feel like he was ahead for a lot of that game, a lot of game 1.
Yeah, just a couple of unfortunate trades that resulted in him having to spend more of his bank than he would have liked. But that was game number 1. This is game number 2 on Tropical Sacrifice, which I believe rounds out our map bingo tonight. In the bottom left-hand corner of the map, starting all the way in the bottom left-hand corner, we of course have our blue Terran player coming out from the land of Belarus. He, of course, is going to be representing Storm Gaming, and he is, of course, the defending champion of Sparkling Tuna Cup. He is Nicoract.
And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Tropical Sacrifice, we have the Indian Zerg player himself representing Alpha X. It is Demi. And I feel like last game is one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of Zerg players play Lingbane Muta against Terran, because it is very micro-intensive, and mutas, you have to babysit them. You cannot leave them alone. They are prone to like sticking forks into wall sockets, and you know they're prone to just wandering into oncoming traffic. They cannot be left alone, because if you do, it only takes a couple of seconds for things to turn real south with them.
Yeah. If things turned out a little bit different, then I would add to that and say, but maybe we should see Zerg players go Muta Bane more often. But yeah, maybe not in this scenario.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other added factor that I should emphasize here, as much as Lingbane Muta is so cool to see, and there's a lot of potential with it, there's a lot of value to be had with him as well once the Muta count gets up high enough, is the fact that Demi is playing with Ping. He's playing from India on the European server, so very bold of him to choose this army composition against Nicoract on Nicoract's home server.
Yeah, but yeah. I guess, you know, you might as well test things out in game number 1 to really get a sense of how you want to play out the rest of the series. And I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this without without it getting old for both me and for the viewers, but it almost worked.
Yeah, no,
it did almost work.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. It did almost work. You know, that's why it was impressive. You know, that's why it's crazy. Maybe, you know, with Demi on land, you know, without ping, maybe he would have been able to take it. You know, maybe he wouldn't have taken one additional Widowmine shot to the face or something like that, or one more Thor volley to the face. So, yeah, very impressive play nonetheless. And mate, he's gonna need that because Nicoract is going for a 2-1-1.
Oh, you love to see it, or at least I do. Very active opening coming out from the Terran player. It's, I think, probably one of my favorite things about the 2-1 opening ever since its inception. It's kind of forces... the Terran player already right off the bat is saying, I'm going to be on the map, and it also kind of forces the Zerg player to say... It also forces the Zerg player to meet that aggression.
Yes, exactly. You have to respond accordingly. You got to respect the 2-1-1, otherwise you will just die. So we'll see what kind of variant Nicoract is going to go for as well, how aggressive his 2-1-1 is going to be. So far, everything is looking pretty standard, and Demi is still in the dark because of this map. The Perv pillar, the scouting pillar for Zerg, is all the way out here outside the natural, so Demi is going to have a harder time scouting unless his Link can slip in.
Not quite able to slip in, but being boxed out by the Marines is in itself a bit of a tell. A lot of drones being thrown down, and we shouldn't see Demi produce too much more for a couple more minutes from here.
Yeah, exactly. He is going to be droning up, and we can be free to drone up until the 4-minute 30 mark. Around the 4-minute 30, obviously you adjust that depending on the map. You know, something like Waterfall or Moondance, you have to cut drones a little bit earlier. But in a couple of seconds, we should cut droning and make nothing but Lings and Queens so Demi can defend. And the other added extra factor is that he has to make sure he has an eye on the medevacs, because the medevacs don't have to go to the third.
That they do not. Demi actually throwing down 2 more eco chambers.
Yeah, a relatively greedy response here. It does mean that he can catch up in those upgrades once he does defend. What he's going to be lacking here is that he is delaying his Baneling Nest. So if Nicoract was like banking Hellions in his main and going for like a surprise like Hellbat push, then it could just kill Demi. But thankfully for Demi, that's not the case.
And instead it is a straight up Marine 2-on-1. A lot of Lings are being produced right now, and that should be enough to keep the drop at bay.
Yeah, we've got Lings, we've got 8 Queens. Oh, a lot of Lings actually get taken down there. You have to be so careful not to lose too many Lings too quickly, otherwise things can snowball and Nicoract can turn around and try and dive on the Queens.
And he wanted to, you could definitely see it in his eyes, but Nicoract, he is restrained. He understands that the #1 priority with this drop is to keep your Marines alive. You know, killing the Queens but losing all of your Marines, well actually, killing a Queen, but losing half of your Marines is not a worthwhile trade in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love the way that Nicoract has been rotating around. He's been clearing up a lot of creep. Likewise, Demi has been chasing these Marines and spreading or re-spreading that creep as best as he can. And so far, Demi has been able to, for the most part, defend against the 2-1-1. I say for the most part, like, Nicoract has done a really good job at just preserving these Marines for so long, and he does finally get a Queen.
And doesn't lose too many Marines to that. Actually only loses 1 Marine.
Yeah, not a bad trade. Meanwhile, the second drop is moving out here towards the bottom right-hand corner, towards the exposed space of Demi. There are no Queens, there are no Lings, there's no creep here to defend, so Demi is most likely going to be forced to cancel here.
Yeah, this is when things get a little bit trickier for the Zerg player, especially when they go for the linear 4th like this. There's so much ground you have to cover with your Lings and your Queens.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Like, Demi knows the position of the first double drop, and it's here at the triangular third, so he made a choice. He was hoping that Nicoract wasn't going to send out another drop. Unfortunately, he gambled a little bit wrong there, and he did have to cancel.
But now he is taking the triangular third, so it should have a little bit less difficulty when it comes to going back and forth. We were focusing a lot on Demi, but looking back at Nicoract, he has not produced SCVs past the 44 mark. This is a straight up two-base all-in. We were talking about the variants of 2-in-1,
Yep.
and this is one of the most powerful ones.
I mean, this is the one that Nicoract did against Eba, if you remember. It was the weird game where both Eba and Nicoract were both going, like, all in.
Yeah.
But Demi, unlike Eba, has been droning up pretty heavily. Look at that drone count, 72 workers. This does mean that if Demi defends against this push, he basically wins. He's going to be so far ahead. But can he pull it off? Because he's going to try and defend with slow banes.
I want to believe. I want to believe. If he gets a couple of good connections with the banelings on the bio, then that shut down this aggression, but that's a massive if we're talking about right now. Look at that pre-split coming out from Nicoract. Look at how well he positioned his Liberators to avoid any sort of queen damage.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Demi is pulling the trigger. Bailey speed finishes up just in time. They roll on forward, and one group of Marines get cleans up, but not the group on the left.
And this is still enough Marines to keep this push going right now for Nicoract. He's sending out his queens. The Hydra's trying to do whatever they can, but it is not enough without Banelings. GG. Nicoract takes game number 2 and will be in the finals of Sparkling Tuna Cup once again, 2 weeks in a row. Once again, a very crisp timing here in game number 2.
Yeah, GG, well played. This is what's scary about Nicoract. Game 1 was pretty stock standard. It was your typical ZVT. There was nothing really too special about it, but here in game 2, it wasn't just a 2-on-1. It was the all-in based variant, just like what we saw against Eba. And unfortunately, Demi wasn't watching that series. You know, he was busy playing his own games.
Starduck. He was busy up against his nemesis.
For not a Starduck, man. If it wasn't for Starduck, maybe Demi would have had a little bit more of a heads up there. But again, Demi was looking at the horizon. He was a lot more economic focused. He was just droning. He wasn't just droning. He was also teching. He was going for a Hydra Den. He was going for more upgrades. He was going for Hydra upgrades. When you're up against an all-in like that, you just need pure Ling Bane Queen. Just numbers, just pure numbers to defend, to survive.
Yep.
That's what you need, and that's not what Demi had.
Yeah, he had numbers, just not in the units he needed them in.
Exactly. GG, well played. Congratulations, Nicoract, and with that, he moves on to the grand finals. Once again, we will not have a Zerg player in the finals. It's going to be another TVP, but at least we're getting some variety. It's been a while since we've seen Nicoract in those finals, if ever.
But he won last week.
Nicoract?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He did. Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
It's been a wild week.
Yeah. I kept thinking it was
Cristiano.
Cristiano.
It's been a while since we've seen Cristiano. It's been a while since we had Cristiano in the finals, though.
True, it's been 2 weeks.
That's basically 6 months.
There you go, mate. There you go. So
in 2 in a time.
Yeah, I love it. That means it's going to be the 2 champions. You know, Nicoract was the champion of number 23. Cristiano was the champion of 21 and 22. So now they're going to be able to face off here in the grand finals. But before the finals, we have something else to do.
We do. We have to pay out those predictions.